It came from the one day that I was sitting doing homework, looking at bark and a bougainvillea. My husband came and gave me 2 flowers and said, so you have something nice to look at. And I planted it. Then the dog took them out. So I went and I got some more. And the dog took them out. So I went and I got some more. Then it became a challenge. And I found myself having to spend a lot of time here with only one class at school, and a lot of anger and sadness for some things that I needed to forgive myself for. So I started digging and I started planting, and then I looked at where I could get a community garden spot until I found La Mesa Verde, or La Mesa Verde actually found me. My community consists of my family and my neighbors. And since I started gardening, I used to actually give my mom the cherry tomatoes. She used to come and she used to have the cherry tomatoes and share some of the vegetables with my sisters and with my neighbors as well. This year, because of my journey last year, my neighbor is now growing her own little bed, and my sisters are also either have vegetables in their in the containers, or they installed or built a garden bed themselves. So La Mesa Verde has not only impacted me in my household with my husband, with my children, the people that live with us, but also extended its growth, its harvest to my neighbors and my sisters. And it has impacted the family that lives here because it's what I cook. So we've been having this year a lot of squash, and they're okay with that. We became a little bit more conscientious about what we're eating, and it's actually helping us. It helped all of us. Last year, they would taste the food, and it's okay, throw some meat in. They wanted to, or all of a sudden I'd find cup of noodles running around. This year, my daughter actually will come out and she will sit with me while I'm working. My son, a few weeks ago, when I had a lot of pole beans growing, I said, here, I handed him this, and I said, just grab all of them that look like this, and I showed him a sample. And he cut them all off for me. And we were talking while he was there. My daughter and I talk while she's there, if she's not listening to something. We have some of our meals out in the garden. I've had meals out here with my husband. One night when the virus stuff came up and we couldn't go anywhere, I put my my grill there, and we cooked out here, we ate out here, we sat out here, we talked out here. The kids were inside. I don't like eating out much. It's a bad, good habit. I like all of my meals to be cooked at home because it's cheaper, it's healthier, especially right now. So, you know, when they shut us down again, that night, I made tacos out in the garden, and I said, who needs a restaurant? This is what we have. So this is what I can offer them, is a good home cooked meal. And if I need something, most of my herbs are they're right there. And I tell them, my daughter said, yeah, can you draw me a map? My son now, he's cooking something, he says, where's the lettuce? And you know, he knows, he says the Swiss chard is his lettuce, so I got him another kind of lettuce. So they know that it's out here. Not everything that we eat is out here, but give me a piece of chicken and I can marinate it with a whole bunch of my herbs. Making some water with my cucumbers. I'm waiting for my berries to sprout out so I can, eat those too. That might be a while. And the flavor of the tomatoes is so much different when they're fresh off the vine than when they're store-bought. I was unsure that I was going to plant because of the schedule that I had with school, and I felt that I needed a break. But with COVID-19 and the fear of not knowing what's going to happen, not knowing if we were going to be able to go to the store and buy food, I started with the tomatoes. And whatever happens outside of this house, my husband says that all we need is a chicken, and we can survive the virus without leaving the house with so much vegetation that I have. I've made a lot of mistakes, and a lot of plants have suffered. Some of them did not make it. How did I repair? What kind of mistakes? Over pruning, overusing the neem oil. I burnt a few plants before. Letting them run wild, grow wild like the tomatoes. Felt like it was supposed to top over, so it looks kind of funny, but it's giving me fruit. And not always using the irrigation and actually watering them with a hose gives me the amount of time that I need to look at them and to see what needs attention. Right now, I haven't harvested enough of, but the ones that I'm paying attention to right now is the cucumbers. That one because I like to combine it with the mint and some lime and make my spa water, which to keep me hydrated. Cooking wise, the beans. I know that the smaller, the more tender they are, but I actually like them to be grown into a bean. And I like to put those in the toaster oven, bake them a little bit with some olive oil, and season them in different kinds of ways. And the vine is beautiful to grow, and it's delicious to have. I get asked a lot, actually, quite a bit, if how did I do it, how did I get into it, and I've given the information to a couple of people already, and I would, most definitely. I wanted to do it. I would have done this alone, and I had mentioned it to my husband a year prior. I said, I want a vegetable garden, and he wasn't on board. And a few weeks ago, when I brought it up, he said, because I didn't know if you were going to actually do it, what level of commitment you had. He tried planting fruits and vegetables on the side of the deck, and nothing ever came up. But if it hadn't been for me being involved in the Mesa Verde and having instructions on what to do, on what not to do, and also, more importantly, the commitment, the responsibility to say I have to do this by certain date because I'm going to have an inspection. So the accountability had a lot to do with it. Improved my my emotions. And there was one day that I was inside the house and my heart rate was up, and I knew that. And so I came out here and I started doing some busy work out here. Next thing you know, without even thinking about it, my heart rate went down. So it keeps me calm. It keeps me away from the depression in the bedroom with the curtains drawn and then under the bed. So it keeps me away from my negative thoughts. Physical, it's helped me lose weight in a healthier way because I'm not in the house and I have my gloves on. I'm not in the fridge all the time like I used to be. It takes me away from the harmful things that I was doing. Hello, my name is Adela Gonzales, and this is my second year with La Mesa Verde, and I am an urban gardener. These are my pole beans, and these actually I grew with the seeds from last year. So when I pulled the plants, I took whatever vegetables were still on the vine, and I saved them for this year. And I did some taco cooking, so they're suffering a little bit. That's why I had to put the plastic over them to greenhouse them, in addition to adding some more dirt to the beds. On this bed, I actually have mint, 2 different types. I believe one's spearmint. I can't find the little tags. One's for drinks and one's for baking, and then the one for cooking is on the other side over there. That one is the one that I use the most for cooking. This is the ones that Guatemalans use for most of their cooking. And actually my neighbor, she's from Guam and she likes this one as well. Here on the trellis I have the lemon cucumbers. These actually, I did not have success with them last year. They suffered, the plant actually died, so this is a big win for me. On this one is another type of cucumber, and that one wraps around the entire trellis all the way around to the top. The base of the bed has all of my spices, my oregano, 2 different types, my thyme, my cilantro's inside the bed, and so is the parsley. It gets really good shade with the tomatoes for those 2. And then I have another type of cucumber here. The cherry tomato is actually the one that grew back from last year, probably from a little tomato that landed in the bed. And I've been doing the supports as it grows. I just learned what a determinate tomato and an indeterminate tomato is. So, which one needs a vine trellis bigger than the other kind. This is one of the ones, I don't remember if this is the one that you guys gave me or if my husband got me. He came home on our anniversary. No, he came home one day and he brought 4 plants of tomatoes. They didn't all make it, but I have this one. They're having some trouble with growing, but they're okay. They'll be okay, I think. Yeah, that one's not pretty. There's a pretty one down there. Or no, that's not. That's my big tomatoes are not doing very well today. But I'm working on it. That's why I got the soil. This has been my most productive yellow squash plant. And this morning I was trying to lift it, and I was going to lift it up and trellis it because I had never grown this one. I'd never tried, and I didn't know what it was going to do. So I thought that I could just trail it out, but it looks like I can grow it up. So that's what I was working on this morning. On the other bed, again, this is another yellow squash. Hasn't done given me as much as the other one, but it's getting there. It looks healthier. This is my other cherry tomato, and I let it grow wild. Looks like my daughter's hair when she was little. She'd just wake up. That was a plant, and that did come from La Mesa Verde. This is my eggplant. It's getting ready. I had never eaten eggplants until I grew them last year. I'll tell you that. So it's been giving me an opportunity to try new things, new fruit, new vegetables. And then I had this bright idea to pull out my rose bushes and plant the three sisters around the Virgin. But I'm missing a sister. I'm missing the pole beans back here. They didn't sprout up. But I did grow the fourth sister successfully, which is behind her, and that's a sunflower. She's about to peek out. It's not a mammoth one like the ones on the garden bed. I planted 6 sunflower seeds inside the beds and 5 sprout out. I didn't realize what mammoth meant. I guess I should have researched it a little more. I looked at the envelope. But these are about 10 feet tall, I want to say. So next year, my task that my husband has given me is to grow corn. So that'll probably be along the other side, which we can talk about. So on this side, when I started running out of room in the beds, I created a tiny little bed with some extra wood planks that I had from a fence that I bought on clearance. So I planted all of the chilies here, between here, and then on this side of the walk. So I have bell peppers here. And to be honest with you, I still don't know what some are because some either sprout out or I lost track of where I was putting things. This is a red bell pepper. Something landed on it, so I had to trim it back. And so it's still growing. That one I have not been able to harvest yet, but the green I have. This tomato, this is a cherry tomato, I believe. Yes, came up by itself as well. And what I was telling my husband is how funny it is that the ones that came up by themselves are the ones that look healthier. On the deck, in the container, and I was having trouble watering that, so I had to get an extension to my hose. This is a granadilla, another form of passion fruit. So this one I actually ordered online because this is what my husband eats in Guatemala. It's traditional to them, and I had a taste of it when I went in December, Christmas of 2005, I believe. And no, 2006, sorry. And they're delicious. So we'll see. It's here because this is the one that he takes care of. This is my salads. I'm still working on these. I need to find a bigger container or put them in the bed, probably. The Swiss chard, I pulled it out at the end of the season and put it into a pot, and I put it back into the same bed in the same spot that it was last year. That's serrano, the peppers. Those are actually also from last year. Again, I pulled out all of the chilies from the beds and a couple of tomatoes, and the ones that survived are most of the chilies. And that's last year's plant, and it's done really well. This one I lost the tag to it, so I didn't know what it was for a long time until I saw it come up. And this is my spaghetti squash. And I didn't know how big it was going to get again, so I built a tiny little trellis after I figured it needed something. But it looks like it's going to keep growing and growing. And my daughter had this idea that she says, you should build a tunnel on the walkway. And the passion fruit and the spaghetti squash agree because they got together. They're making me a tunnel. So this tomato here is a chance tomato. I was rearranging the tomatoes in the beds, and snap, it broke. So I didn't know what else to do with it, so I was pressed for time. I just came in and I just literally just went to it into the ground. And I never took out the stick. I thought it was going to die. And this is the original thing that I just put in, and it started sprouting out. So that's why it has this funky little trellis that I just kind of built around it, just to, I wasn't sure if it was going to make it or not. Next to it, I have another yellow squash because I wanted to keep them together. This whole area where I have the zucchinis and the squash makes my house look like a jungle. He said, I feel like I walked into Jumanji. My sister said she felt like Alice in Wonderland because of the big sunflowers. This is producing a lot of vegetables for me to share, and that's what I'm doing. So what I'm doing right now is I'm extending my little garden bed a little further, just with regular fence clearance wood plank that I get at Home Depot for 70% off in the back. Every time I go to the back. And so they're mismatched, but you know, they're doing the job. I am growing so much squash that I am either giving it away or I am beginning to dry it. I don't want to spend money on a dehydrator, so I'm using the old-fashioned sun drying with 2 screen doors that I have. And these I did the day before yesterday. These I did a few days ago. And then here's another self-planted plant. And I don't know if it just grabbed soil from my little flower area and went with it, or it just decided to grow on the clay, because this is really hard clay soil right here. And I have no idea how these things came up. But there's a pumpkin here. I think it's a pumpkin. We'll see. If anybody can tell me. Uh-oh, looks like something got to it, or we beat it up when we were moving things. Now, this was also a self-planting seed, and it turns out that I have a big pumpkin growing. And we did a temporary support last night just to get it off the ground so it doesn't get attacked by the snails or whatnot. So it has a shelf. I'm tempted to go get a Cinderella or some mice and then just kind of put them on the other part of the board. If I do it, I'll let you know. Oh, my basil. Last year, I was told that it needed shade because I kept killing it, harvesting it. So I bought several ones so I wouldn't over-harvest one of them. This is from La Mesa Verde. This I actually had in the bed, but I wanted to see how it did here. And this one I also had, no, I did not have this in the garden bed. I had these in a pot, and the one that was already here I pulled out and I gave it to my back door neighbor. And I'm sprouting a new one. So I love basil, plenty of basil. My task is to lift it up and make a little roof. I was playing with it to see if I could, but none of the wood under there is temporary. Oh, zucchini. Zucchini, right? This one just started giving out, producing anything. And there's a story to that. My husband, when he grew up in Guatemala, when he was not in school, his mom would send him to the little village of El Socorro. That's where his grandma was. She had cows, she had land. No electricity, no plumbing, no nothing. And he was given a little machete as a child. I wouldn't give my child one. And he was basically roaming around the mountain with his cousins, with his family, in the lands that they were cultivating. So every morning, most mornings, we both sit together in those chairs and we have our morning coffee. And this is where he starts remembering his childhood, the beautiful memories he has, and what he wants for the future. And it gives me the marching orders for the day of what to grow. We miss orchard. So he went in, they were closing up, and he came home with a sign. I'm like, what happened? And it points directly to where all my nursery stuff is. So this was my nursery, is my nursery, but it's not covered anymore. I took out the PVC pipes that I had, and I had this whole entire cover area as a nursery, and it worked real well to nurse some of the plants back to health. And this is called the Last Chance Nursery, because I also bring all the plants that either I don't know what to do with yet. I pulled succulents so I could put some of the vegetation in there, and the succulents will make it back or will be relocated, but they don't get thrown away. I don't throw away plants. As a matter of fact, this right here is from last year, and it's struggling, but it wants to do something, and I want to see what happens. So a lot of the things that I do is experimental to see what they can and cannot do. And that's actually okay, because some of these surprises have actually been very nice. I uncovered it, but I still have everything here. I still water it, some of these things. Some of the succulents in my backyard are actually, most of them, all of them actually, are from my mom's garden. January, my father passed away from Alzheimer's, and during the spring and summer, I would go on random days to help my mom with her gardening, just to spend time with her and do some of the things that she couldn't do at 73 years old. So while I was pruning and cleaning the backyard, some of her succulents would break off, and I'd say, oops, can I take it home? So there was a lot of breakage over there, so most of my garden has succulents from her house. At least these are from her house. This rose, I don't know their names. This one's from her house. So there are several from her house. And I actually have quite a lot of these. And so she came with me. Oh, and what are those called? The one with the red flower. I can't remember right now. The geraniums, those are from her house. And the beautiful thing is that my mother-in-law had planted a branch also here in one of her stays. So I have both of our mothers here. My mom passed away in November. This is called the Garden of Self-Forgiveness, because the last person that we forgive is ourselves. And in learning how to take care of those plants, I learned how to nourish relationships back to health, also how to build new relationships, how to expand relationships, and how to heal myself from my own scars. So in every time that I'm out here, every time that I'm planting something, every time that I'm working on something, if it's frail, I take that as a lesson as my relationships with myself or with others. Where have I failed? What did I do wrong? Why is it blooming so much? What did I do right that I can transfer onto another plant? And it has been a long healing process for me, and also a very fruitful outcome for me, for my children, for my husband, for my family, for my friends, and not only in the edible kind, but in the ones in the heart.